Hello, this is Michael Hart. I'm host of The Michael Hart Show and the author of Unknown America Myths and Little Known Oddities about the Greatest Nation on Earth, which dispels many of the myths and rumors about what's going on in the news in the United States on any given day and throughout American history. Today, I'm going to be a little bit shorter on what I want to discuss with you because it has to do with the gun control debate that we have been hearing on the heels of El Paso and, of course, Dayton, and that we've heard for many, many years in this country. And I simply want to make the point that in America today, the last thing the Democrats want to accomplish is any form of meaningful gun control or the elimination of guns or elimination of the problem for that matter. I know there's been a lot of discussion in recent years about the tyranny of the left, certainly quite amped up after the last election that got us Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and, well, the four horsewomen of the apocalypse, just to name a few. But the reality of it is the Democrats have no desire to eliminate this problem any more than they want to eliminate what's going on as it relates to immigration or any one of the other issues that they perpetually seek to improve or ameliorate in this country. Because the bottom line is they need fearful people. They need people that are afraid of their own shadows to vote for them. If they were for one moment to eliminate the gun issue in America vis-a-vis the mass shootings, that would be one less problem that they could campaign on and use in their slogans as well as much of their rhetoric. Now, let me make a case in point about this, because if we go back to the year 2009, it's the last couple of weeks of the Bush administration when Dick Cheney was president of the United States Senate. The vice president holds that capacity. But then shortly thereafter, the elections of 2008 had given us quite a swelling in the Democrat ranks in the House of Representatives and the Senate. In other words, for the first 2 years of the Obama administration controlled the House of Representatives, the United States Senate, the executive branch or the presidency, and had a tremendous amount of influence and support from the Supreme Court. And yet nothing was done on the mass shootings or the gun control debate. Sure, it was bantered back and forth just a bit, but nothing measurable was ever done. No laws were passed. We already have laws on the books that are, quite frankly, not enforced. It's also interesting to note that in the year that the Obama administration took greater control of the House of Representatives and the Senate, that we had 22 mass shootings in that particular year of 2009. In 2010, that number was 15. And then 2011, the last year of the majority, the number of shootings in America went up to 24. Yet no legislation of any import was actually introduced. We have Democrat control of the House of Representatives as well as the Senate. And again, that's a friendly justices on the Supreme Court, as well as ownership of the Oval Office. Pardon me. So what do you think is the issue? What could possibly be going on? Well, at the end of the day, the Democrats and all politicians, frankly, do this, but they know they've got to have a problem to solve. They realize that without having these problems, that it calls into question their power and authority and influence because people simply don't pay attention, nor do they show up at the polls in the appropriate amount of numbers when everything is going right. They only do so in times of crisis when we see things like the election of Obama or even Donald Trump for that matter. So rest assured, despite the fact that they had control of the entire, legislative and executive apparatus of this country, it still did nothing, is proof positive that they had no desire to pass legislation. They also realized that, believe it or not, some Democrats would be very much in, disfavored, the voters that is, for the politicians to do away with the Second Amendment. I understand standing up against tyranny, and that is certainly what the intent of the Second Amendment was all about. But rest assured that Democrats have got to have this problem to solve. Now, let me give you a little bit more about what's going on in this country in the time that we have left today. I have, for the longest period of time, been a big advocate of breaking down the news of the day through the prism of the past. It's the tagline of my program, which you can hear at heartofamerica.net every Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Central Time. But we need to go all the way back to the year 1967, when a book was published that was written for the time of 1963. Now, I don't have the copy of my book with me, so I just made you a screenshot. It was called The Report from Iron Mountain. Now, what the report from Iron Mountain is all about is the idea there was a 15-member panel that was brought together. And let me stop here for just a moment and tell you that the book was a New York Times bestseller. We don't really know if the report took place or if it's just a satire. But there are people out there that think it was a real live report that was done. The book itself obviously existed because it was a New York Times bestseller in 1967. But I want to give you a little bit of insight because the book deals with what they call a credible substitute for war. What the book is essentially instructing Washington is that America has a war economy. And when America is not on a war footing, that the economy suffers, and that it's difficult to manage or stabilize populations when you are not at war. For those of you that might keep up with things going on in the Middle East, whenever Saddam Hussein had a problem with the Iranians or a problem with his own people in Iraq, he attacked Iran. And it was on and off and on and off all the time. Despotic governments have done that throughout history. But as far as the report from Iron Mountain is concerned, it was a 15-member panel. They called themselves a special study group. And I'm going to read directly from the book, set up to examine what problems would occur in the United States if the United States entered a condition of lasting peace. Now, this heavily footnoted report concludes that peace is not in the best interest of a stable society. Now, taking a look at the book itself, they recommend, the 15-member panel, credible substitutes and paying what they referred to as a blood price to emulate the economic functions of war. Prospective government-devised alternatives to war included, and tell me if this doesn't seem a little on the modern side, alien reports of alien life forms, the reintroduction of a euphemized form of slavery. We can call this reparations or even any form of economic slavery. Economic slavery consistent with modern technology and political processes. And the one deemed particularly promising from the book in 1967, the report from Iron Mountain, promising in gaining the attention of a malleable mass, meaning us, the threat of gross pollution of the environment. You see, the point is that the government, or the party for that matter, always needs a crisis. We can go all Rahm Emanuel if you want to, but at the end of the day, they need the crisis of immigration. They need the crisis of gun control. Everybody in this country, you're either on one side or you're on the other. We're either fearing confiscation of our weapons, or we're fearing that we're going to be a victim of those weapons. The Democrats are the party of victimhood. They have proven it time and time and time again. At no time in recent history, with the exception of the 111th Congress, has any administration had as much power and influence over the entire political apparatus of this country. They can't possibly lose this argument. They can't lose that bill or that law. So why was it not passed? Why was it not introduced? Because as long as there is fear on the left, we can inspire people to come out to the polls. We can inspire people to make donations. We can inspire people in this social media day and time that we live in to post things online and hopefully to inspire their friends and family to do much the same. Because it's a long known tenet of American politics that a fearful electorate will vote more frequently than one that is complacent. And it's simply no more difficult and different than that. So until we come to the realization that time and time and time again, these debates are going to gin up, that we are never going to get to a conclusion in terms of gun control. We've had the laws, we've had the assault weapons ban, then we're unbanning assault weapons, and back and forth and back and forth. And looking at my graph over here from 2009, again, 22 mass shootings, 15, 24, 18, 24, 15, 21, all under the Obama administration. And yet nothing was done because nothing was introduced. despite the power and control that they have, because at the end of the day, having a fearful population is very simple and very similar to having a credible threat of a substitute for war in order to keep the country's voters off balance so the government can come in and save the day. And they just simply resuscitate and regurgitate this particular need year in and year out, and will do so for the foreseeable future. Keep an eye on this one, folks, because that's exactly what's happening in the Unknown America. You were listening to Unknown America right here on the Heart of America Broadcasting Network. We'll be back with you very, very, very soon, and thanks for tuning in.